Good afternoon, the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Perth. This meeting will now come to order at 5 p.m. I would call upon Deputy Mayor Ed McPherson for adoption of the agenda.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor McCray. Be it resolved, the agenda for the Committee of the Adjustment meeting on December 2nd, 2025 be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Does anybody have a declaration of interest and general nature thereof? Hearing none, I will call upon Councillor Barry Smith for a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting.
Be it resolved that the minutes of October 14th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment meeting be adopted as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. I would ask Joanna Bowes, Director of Developmental Services, if there have been any requests for deferral or withdrawal for this minor variance application before the Committee of Adjustment.
There have not.
Thank you. The purpose of this meeting is to hear the following application for minor variance. MV 02-2025 85 Wilson Street West, 2831496 Ontario Incorporated, care of Andrew James. Committee is charged with making a decision on the application noted on this agenda. The decision will be based on both oral and written input received and understandings gained. The planner will provide a brief overview of the details of the file. The applicant will then be given an opportunity to explain the need for the variance. Then any person or public body in opposition and then in favor of the application will be heard. If you wish to be notified of the decision of the Committee of Adjustment with respect to the below listed application, you must submit a written request to the Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment, or you must sign the attendance list provided at this evening's meeting. At this point, I would ask Joanna Bowes, Director of Developmental Services, to provide an overview of minor variance application MV 01-2025 and confirm if the required notice provisions have been met.
The notice provisions for this file have been met.
Okay, thank you, and we look forward to hearing your report.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to go back to 2023, I believe, in the fall. There had been an application for zoning bylaw amendment for this site at 85 Wilson Street West. It was heard by Committee of the Whole and approved based on the planning rationale in that report. There had been comments from the public and they were addressed. It was brought back and finally approved. I think it sat before Committee of the Whole twice and then approved by council. It was brought forward by a different owner at that time. And so the approval was given and the idea was that it was going to go through a site plan and then building permit. And that didn't happen for whatever reason. The applicant instead chose to sell the property to these current owners. And so they had a look and wanted to keep the bulk of the that zoning relief. But as they were trying to sort of wiggle the site and make it suit their purposes, they had a couple extra requests. One, to increase an impervious surface area maximum from 70% to 72.9%, and a reduction in the parking rate. So the council had granted 22 parking spaces, and this request is for 21 parking spaces, so 1 parking space less than the original zoning bylaw. That was passed. And so we're just coming before a Committee of Adjustment because these are a much smaller request for amendments. And I just want to note, I've put it in my report as well, but the province has actually moved forward saying that basically from this point forward, anything that's under 10% is just as of right. So had this application been filed even like a week ago, it wouldn't be here. So I just want to sort of state that for council's understanding of where we're at provincially. So the subject lands are municipally known as 85 Wilson Street. They are in a low density residential area, but they are within close proximity to I think you guys are well aware of the property at 79, the cooperative housing 36 unit apartment building. And it's also quite close to the public pool and the public elementary school. So to give you a context for the neighborhood. I went back to the report that we looked at for the original zoning bylaw amendment. And Environmental Services and Building Department just noted that they would need to provide civil engineering drawings and reports related to water supply, sanitary, sewer, and stormwater management as part of the site plan approval process. And they'd need to provide architectural drawings indicating points of entry, window sizes, building dimensions, and clearances from overhead wires. The same holds true for this. When the applicant provides a site plan, they will be required to have those things. The other item to bring forward an update is that the last motion requested a rate of $4,675 cash in lieu of parking per spot. And since that time, we've updated our rates to 5,000. The Conservation Authority was the only external agency to provide comment, and they had no concerns. They listed some best practices for the developer to consider, and those comments were forwarded to developer. And there were no comments from the public at the time of this report. So when we look at the minor variance, there are 4 questions we ask. Does proposal maintain the intent of the official plan? In this case, the application meets the intent of the official plan because it's providing infill construction and residential uses are expected to occur in this area. Does the proposal maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw? I've noted that the requests for variances are minor and deemed appropriate. Is the proposal desirable in terms of being appropriate or necessary for development of land? And again, I've said infill is an appropriate expectation and is appropriate for the area. It provides better use of services such as garbage collection and water and sewer. And is the proposal minor in terms of land use and impact on adjacent holdings? We did have discussion about that during the zoning bylaw process. And we're going to determine if there's any additional impacts the neighborhood based on those civil studies and that sort of information, but that will be guided through and worked with through the site plan process. And so I guess that's all I have to say, and then you can go ahead with the read the recommendation.
Thank you very much, Joanna. Are there any questions by the committee of Joanna this afternoon? Councillor McCray.
Through you, Chair, to Joanna. So what you're referring to is Bill 60? Is that the one in terms of fighting delays, building faster act? Is that the bill that
Yes.
refers to this specific situation?
Yes.
Okay, and just one other thing, I want to make sure I got this straight. The best practices that were recommended by is it the Ministry of Environment?
Rideau Valley Conservation Authority.
Okay. Could you just review what they were again?
Hold on. Well, they have increased well casing depth and septic system information, but those all do not apply in this situation. So the only thing that would apply would be avoiding the use of pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers.
Okay, all right. No problem, thank you.
Are there any other questions of Joanna from any member of the committee? Mayor Brown.
Yes, I noticed that there's a couple of the apartments that are handicapped accessible. Are there any of the apartments that are geared to income?
Not that I am aware of.
Any other questions of Joanna at this time? Councillor Bolt.
I just wanted to clarify, so we're going to go from what was 22 down to 20, but it's only a 16-unit building, right? So there's space for at least one vehicle per unit and then a little bit for leftover.
Yeah, it depends how you look. You can look at it a variety of ways. You could have, there's enough spots for the apartment units and no visitor parking, or you could have an excess of visitor parking and one space per unit kind of thing. So either way, it sort of balances itself out. I think it's sufficient.
Right. Okay. That was my only question. Thank you.
Any further questions of Joanna at this time? Thank you, Joanna. At this time, I would ask if the applicant or a representative wishes to speak to the application. Please come forward and identify yourself.
Hi, my name is Gordon Graff. I'm the architect of the project. Joanna's done an excellent job of summarizing what we're asking for in the minor variance. Which is one clarification, it is 22 was initially requested and we're providing 21. So it's only, so it's only one space we're looking for variance on. Yep. The one thing I would add, right now with 16 units, 21 spaces, it's a rate of 1.31 parking spaces per unit. It's a relatively healthy number, especially if you look at other communities and what their parking rates that are required for apartment buildings per unit. This would certainly fall in line or exceed those. Perth has a very robust requirement for parking, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in this case, this property is very well situated for individuals that do not have cars, right? We're blessed with a very walkable community, but here particularly, this is a very walkable property location. So, if this were closer to Highway 7 or closer to the South Street, it would probably be slightly different. In this case, we're pretty close to the core of the community. So I feel like that's a relevant point as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Does any member of the committee have any questions of Gord? Hearing none, thank you very much. I would ask Joanna, have there been any written comments from the public other than those included in the staff report, in which there were really none?
There were none.
Yeah, and none have come in since?
No.
Okay. I would ask if there is any member of the public in attendance wishing to speak in favor of or against this application. I see no one in chambers. Is there anyone online? I do not see anyone. With that, I will call upon Councillor McCray. You have a motion.
That the Town of Perth Committee of Adjustment approve minor variance application number MV02 2025 to permit the construction of a 16-unit apartment building on the property municipally known as 85 Wilson Street West, with an increase in the impervious surface area from 70% to 72.9% and a reduction in the parking rate from 1.3 spaces per unit to a maximum of 21 spaces to 1.25 spaces per unit to a maximum of 20 spaces.
All those in favor? Oh, there's still more.
Do you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Minor variance application number MV-02 2025 be approved with the following conditions. Number one, that cash in lieu for the parking spaces be required prior to site plan control agreement issuance at a rate of $5,000 a space. That the submission of a complete site plan control application be provided to the Development Services Department for review and approval. That the drawing submitted with the building permit application must, in the opinion of the town, conform to the general intent and description of the drawings submitted in support of the minor variance, and must conform to the drawings submitted with the site plan control application. The owner applicants shall demonstrate to the satisfaction of the town that there are no adverse impacts on neighboring properties as a result of any modification to on-site grading or drainage. That the applicant apply for and receive a building permit for the construction of this project. And number 6, upon completion of construction, the applicant owner must provide an as-built survey to the town to confirm compliance with the minor variance approval.
Thank you, Councillor McCray. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Our next meeting will be held at the call of the Secretary Treasurer. Councillor Byrd, you have a motion for adjournment.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Jim Bolt, that the Committee of the Adjustment meeting held on December the 2nd, 2025, adjourn at 17:16.
Thank you. All those in favor? The motion is carried. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. I'm Councillor Jim Bolt, and I will be your chair for this evening. I'd like to call for an adoption of the agenda by Mayor Brown, please.
Thank you. That the agenda for the regular committee of the whole meeting of December 2, 2025 be adopted as presented.
All in favor? It's carried unanimously. If anybody has, as normal, a disclosure of pecuniary interest or any conflict of interest or general nature thereof, declare it now or as we go along at any time if you feel it is necessary. I don't see any hands going up, so we're good there. We have no public meetings under the Planning Act. If I could get Councillor Isabel Ann McCray to move the approval of the previous minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself, Councillor Isabel Ann McCray, that the minutes of the regular committee of the whole meeting held on November the 4th, 2025, and the special committee of the whole meeting held on November the 18th, 2025 be approved.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Under item number 6, we have a delegation. Louise McDermott is here to give us a presentation from PerthWorks. Louise, if you want to come forward and make yourself comfortable. Make sure you pull the microphone up nice and close to you there, and the button has to be pushed to make it glow red. When you see it glowing red, it's working. There you go. And I might remind you that you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you. I should clarify at the beginning, I'm not from Perth, I'm not representing PerthWorks.
Okay,
Okay, I'm talking about it.
you're talking about it. Fine, that's
Yeah.
great.
PerthWorks began as housing designed for a sustainable society. Can you hear me all right?
You might want to pull that a little closer.
Right up here. There you go. Okay. The founders of PerthWorks envisioned a group of homes built according to certain environmental criteria and functioning as a community inclusive of different ages, levels of income, and housing types. In 2008, when my husband and I began the process of arranging for our home to be built next to the Smart Home in PerthWorks, which is the very first house on the PerthWorks site, the prospect of being part of a sustainable community was important to us. By sustainable, we understood that we not only embraced the opportunity to have a lower environmental footprint in terms of a smaller lot and green building design, but we would become part of a community who shared those values. In recent years, I realized that as the PerthWorks site was developed and different builders became involved, there may have been a lack of clear communication to new homeowners as to what the future planning for the PerthWorks site community involved. A concept design map from the early days reflected the blend of private and community space, but did not represent the actual dimensions of the building lots and green space areas. A landscaping plan later approved by the residents may also have given the impression that the common land was larger than it actually is. It's taken me some time to understand why there has been a collision of interpretations and understandings of what the PerthWorks development is all about. As I tentatively planned for a move to the sixplex proposed for 6472 Cockburn Street, I find myself apprehensive. I sympathize with my former neighbors who feel dispossessed from what they may have understood was theirs and are shocked and upset by the noise and turmoil of construction. At the same time, I feel that the new construction on the PerthWorks site will bring it closer to its original purpose, to be a community of mixed ages, incomes, and type of housing. A real community is more than a collection of houses and individuals. What makes a community is a shared sense of having something in common. The original concept of Perthworks, as I understood it, was based on sustainability, sharing, and cohesion. And this concept grew out of a partnership between the town and various community partners, EcoPerth, an architect, and Algonquin College, and just neighbors, ordinary citizens. The plan was forward-thinking in 2007, 2008, and the town can be proud of its vision in can be proud of sharing in the vision of the concept plan. The challenges we face today call for us to be even more forward-thinking, not just in terms of Perthworks, but for the whole town. What kind of community do we want Perth to be, physically, socially, and environmentally, as we prepare for the effects of a changing climate, a changing economy, and a changing political landscape? I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak about intangible things like values, visions, intentions, when you have some very weighty things like the budget and planning for the next 5 years. I thank you for offering the public an opportunity to offer comments on the budget, the official plan, and for being open to citizen comment.
All right, questions for Louise, Councillor Waterfield.
Chair, not a question, but simply a comment, if I may. Louise, it's always a pleasure to see you, and I want to thank you for your continued community activism. I'm very much a supporter of the building that's going up in Perthworks. It's going to provide affordable housing for our citizens. I know all the people in the Perthworks neighborhood, or many of them. They're great people, and I know during the construction of any neighborhood, it's not a pleasant experience, but I'm confident that when it's time for new residents to move in, everybody will welcome these new residents, and we'll continue to thrive and build community, not only in Perthworks, but throughout town. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your contribution.
Well, thank you.
Mayor Brown.
Thank you. Thanks for your presentation, Louise. I know, speaking to you, how well educated and how much wisdom you have. So I'm going to ask you a question you may prefer not to answer, but speaking to some of the residents of Perthworks, there's been a great deal of opposition and animosity towards this construction, and some people equate affordable housing with social housing, and one person there even used the word slum. Once this is built, can you think of some way of encouraging these people to, accept the new people as neighbors and create a welcoming atmosphere rather than one of animosity?
That's a really good question. And it applies not just to Perthworks, but to the whole town. I feel that our world is facing such challenges today. The old way of doing things is not the best way. And I feel that when we talk about quality of life, it shouldn't refer to how big a house you have and how many bathrooms or bedrooms or whatever, but it should be the feelings that you have as a community with your neighbors. When I was a child growing up, just after the Second World War, we had a neighborhood where, well, it was full of kids because it was post-war, and there was such a feeling of community. You could knock on anybody's door if you were, afraid or something, and somebody would look after you. And I feel that we need to try to hold on to that feeling of community in Perth. It was one of the things that attracted us here. When I walked down the street on a visit with my husband, somebody said hello to us and, and smiled. And it's such a nice feeling. And I love Perth for those reasons. I'm, they know who I am in the library and the metro and places like that. And that's such a good feeling. It has nothing to do with socioeconomic status or whatever. It's something we should treasure. Thank you, Judy.
Yes, that was a excellent summary. That's the way I feel about Perth. It is so welcoming.
Thank you.
Councillor McCray.
Through you, Chair. Louise, you are one of the most positive, visionary examples in our community. You always have something very positive. You shine a bright light on a number of challenging issues. I think you hit the nail on the head, the need for people to be more welcoming, more accommodating, more supportive. And you are probably one of the best examples of community we have walking around our town. And I am so grateful that you are a member of our community. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And if I'm friendly or community minded, it's because I'm receiving that from the town. And I wanted to thank all of the councillors I know you must have been working day and night the last few weeks to get everything read. And, I've looked at some of the agendas for other meetings. I couldn't believe the number of pages you have to read. And I really appreciate how you welcome public input. I think that's what makes the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise.
All right. No other comments or questions? Louise, once again, thank you for your very kind words and your concerns and your comments. Very much appreciated. Now I'd like to ask Councillor Waterfield to read the recommendation.
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth receive for information the presentation from Louise McDermott, PerthWorks, as presented at the Committee of the Whole meeting on December the 2nd, 2025.
All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Correspondence, we have none scheduled. We're going to delve right into staff reports. There's a number of staff reports, so I'm just going to, we've all had an opportunity to read the staff reports. So I'm not going to ask each and every person to come up and speak to them unless you have questions. And if you do, just request the same and we'll have individuals come up. Otherwise, we'll just go through them as they're presented here. So the first one is the 2025 Emergency Management Program Annual Review from Trevor and Tracy. If no one has any questions, I'm going to have Deputy Mayor read the recommendation.
Moved by myself as recommended by Committee of the Whole, be resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth receive the 2025 Emergency Management Program Annual Review as presented in the report 2025 COW 15.1.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. 8.2 Animal Care and Control Bylaw Amendment. Could I have Councillor McCray read that recommendation?
Moved by myself as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 3557-1, being a bylaw to amend the Animal Care and Control Bylaw to 1, discontinue the dog and cat tag licensing and registration program effective January the 1st, 2026, and 2, require the owner of all dogs and cats to have a tag affixed to their collar that contains the name of the animal and the owner's contact information, or that the dog or cat be microchipped, as presented in Report 2025 Committee of the Whole 15-2.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried unanimously. Report 8.3, 2026 OPP Detachment Board Budget. Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself as recommended by committee of the whole, be resolved that the council of town of Perth, number one, approves the draft 2026 Lanark County OPP Detachment Board budget. Number two, approves the establishment of a surplus reserve fund for the Lanark County OPP Detachment Board, where the 2025 surplus will be placed at the end of the year. And number three, approves the inclusion of the Lanark County OPP Detachment Board for 2026 and in future years, the county levy, with the detachment board budget managed as a separate fund in the county financial system as presented in report COW 2025-15.3.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried unanimously. 8.4, final amendment, 2026 mayor's budget documents. Councillor Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth approve the following amendments to the draft 2026 mayor's budget. 1. Remove the $15,000 amount allocated for the OPP Detachment Board, and 2. Include $15,000 for volunteer firefighter stipends as presented in report COW 2025-15.4.
Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried unanimously. 8.5, amendment to the fees and charges bylaw number 3675. Councillor Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth, 1. Pass bylaw number 3675-75, being a bylaw to further amend the fees and charges bylaw, and 2. Pass bylaw number 3961-29, being a bylaw to further amend the traffic and parking bylaw parking fees as presented in report 2025 COW-15.5.
I had a question, if I could. The amendment to our fees for bag tags, are they coming up in this report or future report? They're included in this report? So, all right, perfect. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Moving right along. 8.6, bylaw to approve a pre-servicing agreement with respect to Perthmore Development. I would ask Councillor Gary Waterfield.
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 52, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a pre-servicing agreement with Perthmore Development Company Limited for Perthmore Subdivision Phase 6 as presented in report COW 2025-15.6.
I had another question, if I could ask Joanna. So Joanna, just for clarification, this gives Mr. DeCaria the opportunity now to go ahead and do his pre-servicing. I know there's a number of conditions. Those conditions have to be met before when?
Before he begins.
Yeah, you're on.
Yeah, before he begins construction. So basically, we as the town are saying we're okay if you go ahead. Some of the conditions include Rideau Valley Conservation Authority approval, of which I understand they are close. And the other main one they need is approval from the Ministry of Environment, MECP. Anyways, and I understand that they have not yet made an application to them, and those applications generally take a significant amount of time. So until he gets that, they really can't go forward, but they are close with the Conservation Authority, and we are quite honestly bending over backwards. Normally, we would wait to have all those approvals together before we do this.
Right.
But in the interest of trying to help this forward, we're comfortable enough with the conditions we've added to sign this.
Yeah, just wanted that clarification that so he can actually do his pre-servicing now, but then as you say, no building permits issued until the rest of the conditions are.
No pre-servicing work can start until he gets through the MECP.
Oh, I see. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Byrd.
Yes, thank you through the chair. Just for my own education, you just mentioned you would normally do it a different order. Is this setting a precedent that means your normal order will then change?
Well, it's a good question. Ultimately, he can't start until he has everything together. So I would say in a more organized situation, the applications to town, MECP and RVCA would be submitted together and they would all mirror each other. That has not been the case here. There's been a lot of sort of piecemeal things here and there, and a lot of pressure from various quarters to move this forward. And so we said, okay, I mean, we personally as a town are satisfied with the things that we are responsible for. We are not responsible for, obviously, the things the Conservation Authority are and MECP are. And so we said, okay, we'll sign off, but the conditions are you still need to get these approvals. I don't think it's setting a precedent because he still can't go ahead. But it's certainly different than it would normally be. Like if MECP comes back and says, oh, this doesn't work because of whatever reason, then he's going to have to come back and amend the plans with us and the Conservation Authority. But that's kind of the cost of doing business for him.
Yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's
No,
just
that's happy to
I'm
discuss.
always intrigued by anomalies. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily my preferred route. But I think there's been significant push and enough concerns raised by the developer to warrant, let's relook and see if how we can make this, how we can check that box for you.
All right. Any other questions or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. So 8.7. Fighting Delays, Building Faster Act. I'd ask Councillor Waterfield.
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth receive for information the update on Bill 60, Fighting Delays, Building Faster Act, as presented in Report 2025 Cal 15.7.
Question, Councillor McCray. I'm
sorry, Joanna, can you come back? I'm not meaning to make you play musical chairs, but I'm interested in Bill 60, Fighting Delays, Building Faster Act, and the implications it will have on the projects that we presently have in the queue. What do you see as the biggest challenges we will face in terms of this most updated legislation, Bill 60, with those projects that are in the queue?
I think in terms of projects that are in the queue, there's not going to be a lot of changes with respect to this, but projects moving forward, there's certainly could be some amendments to how we operate. For example, I think, given there's this 10% variance allowed as of right, we probably will not be having Committee of Adjustment meetings. Typically, a minor variance is variances to the bylaw that are 10% or less. And so normally those things would come to Committee of Adjustment and would go through the approval process. At this point now, it's as of right. So likely we won't be having very many Committee of Adjustment meetings, if any at all, and that decreases obviously the fees that we receive in this department, but it does move forward things that are like, could be dealt with in a much quicker time period. I'll be honest. I think that's one of the things where I worked previously, we were pushing minor variances through a different process, but turning them around in like between 1 and 3 days. Just given the different processes that were in use there. But it does sort of decrease the fees we can collect. And I guess the other major one is the sort of the official plans all reading the same way and saying the same thing, kind of the government trying to say, here's the set list of how these official plans could read. Well, Perth is completely different than Toronto. And so to have that conceived of, I have personally a real problem with, and I think we'll see how that shakes out, but I'm concerned for how that's going to shape developments ongoing in the future.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That is also carried unanimously. 8.8, amend bylaw number 4805-1, license with Parks Canada for Last Dual Park Docks and Flag Garden. I'd ask Councillor McCray to read the motion.
Moved by myself, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 4805-2, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to complete an amended license agreement with Parks Canada for the Last Dual Park Docks and Flag Garden as presented in Report 2025 Committee of the Whole 15-8.
Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. 8.9, bylaw to enter into a 3-year agreement with Amelia Technologies USA Inc. for recreation management software services. Councillor Smith.
Moved by myself, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 52XX, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a 3-year agreement with Amelia Technologies USA Inc. for the provision of recreation management software as outlined in Report COW 2025 15.9.
Questions? I'll go Councillor McCray and then Councillor Waterfield.
So I'm always interested in the update of technology and these platforms for various services such as recreation or whatever they might be. This one in particular costs $16,000 to buy. Implementation is $1,500, and then for the next 3 years, we're going to be paying anywhere between $3,500 to $4,300. My question is for Kathy McNally. If we're going to move, money's going to be tight, and if we're going to move forward in 2026 and forward beyond that, and we're going to be using the recovery model in terms of budgeting, will something like these kinds of things, these update in software and technology, will they be implemented as part of the recovery for recreational purposes? Or is this seen as a standalone item on the budget?
Kathy?
So through the chair, the $16,000 is actually what we're currently paying annually for Univeris. So
Okay.
we won't be paying that anymore. So we're having a massive savings on that software. So we found that as a win to help take that off our books.
Okay.
So moving forward, we're instead of the 16,000, we're going to be paying the, just
3,500.
3,500, and then it goes up incrementally as it does in a contract. So we were pretty excited just by that savings to help with that as well. Even though the title of the company's name is Amelia Technologies USA Inc., they're actually based out of Montreal. So the people that we're working with are Canadian based, and their service and their product are much better than what we're currently utilizing. So we think that this is going to be a standardized software that we're going to be implementing and keeping for a long time.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Waterfield.
Through the chair, my question by our comment actually was almost just answered. I note that it's an American and not a Canadian company, but as you say, it's based in Montreal, therefore employing Canadians.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to verify that.
I had a quick question, Kathy. Will this software program be easier or easy for staff to get used to? Every time you change a software, package, usually there's a learning curve there. Do you feel confident that it's going to be an easy learn?
Yes, through the chair, the current platform we use is not user-friendly, both on the front end for our public users and on the back end for our staff. So that was part of our manager of aquatic services, Alana Branken. took this upon herself to do some research on what's the software that we can use that's easier to implement. So training's actually starting right now with staff, and our projected timelines to do a soft launch is March 2nd. But even just looking at it today, I sat in on a meeting with them, and it's much easier to adopt.
Thank you for that. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 8-10, grant application 25-26 seniors community grant program. If I could have Mayor Brown read that one. 8.10.
Yep, got it. As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth authorize the Director of Community Services to submit a grant application to the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility's 2025 to 2026 Seniors Community Grant Program to an upset limit of $25,000 as presented in Report 2025 COW-15.10.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor McCray.
Again, this is to Kathy McNally. So when I was reading this grant application, I got the understanding that it's, to make senior programs more accessible. And it mentions seniors, residents, community centers, and long-term care facilities. And I just wanted to make a comment. I worked for 18 years in long-term care facilities and with more specifically the Almonte General Hospital and the day hospital program. And just so people are aware, in long-term care facilities, for every 20, at the time I was involved anyway, and that's not that long ago, for every 25 residents, there was a recreation or activation therapist, they call it a recreation therapist. And also, all the hours of activation are logged in a program called RIE. And so these, just so you're aware, people in long-term care facilities have all kinds of wonderful activation programs that are going on. My premise to speaking to this is that we have a library that offers incredible programs to seniors. And if there's any way that if we are lucky enough to receive these applications, if we could do things to support our own library, to facilitate additional recreational programs for seniors. Our curling club is another example where they run a lot of programs for seniors. And in fact, they're looking for support to run yoga programs for seniors. Matheson House is another one. They're struggling and needing support for senior programs. And seniors that are living in apartment buildings where they do not have an actual activity room, those would be the people that I would be really focusing to get out into the community. Is that kind of the intention of this? Because this is not the same as the pop-up, is it? The pop.
So through the chair, to answer your question, a lot of what you're hitting on is really aligning with our seniors pop-up coordinator role. So Ashley Hannigan just started with us last week. And so in the new year, she's going to be rolling out some programming that aligns with connecting with different groups. So she's going to be reaching out with the Seniors Active Living Center at McMartin House, for instance, but also doing a lot of community outreach to build a volunteer team to help seniors to help facilitate where do we see gaps in our community for programming for seniors, and where can we host these social events to just help bridge that social gap. This in particular is aligning more with our museum programming goals, and we have a very popular program with Perth Enrichment Program through PEP. Where our staff goes and they'll go do presentations on the history, for instance, and it's really a really good way to bring seniors together in those settings where they're already living. So that's part of what we want to do, is to enhance our museum programming that's tailored to more of a seniors demographic that will, align with the things that we talk about in our strategic plan within the town of Perth, and that has to do with, supporting seniors, especially within the social setting. So that's what we're looking at.
So this is, if I may add just one additional, so this is totally different than the museum assistance program?
It is.
Okay.
Any other questions for Kathy? Mayor Brown?
Yes, when I met with Minister Cho when he came to the area to announce this funding, my impression was that the funding would flow through programs that already existed, but would help amplify them, like at McMartin House and PEP and so on. Am I
Mhm.
correct in that?
So through the chair, part of the programming is through the Seniors Active Living Center. So that's where we provide $5,000 a year. That's our commitment as a municipality to ensure that it's called the SALC, SALC, gets funding from the provincial government. So that's part of that grant programming. But the other part of it is that Minister Cho is talking about has to do with, it could be new programming ideas or a way to enhance any kind of offering that connects for seniors.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Kathy, I see there's still 2 or 3 more.
Stay, yeah.
You might as well stay right where you are for a few minutes. Any other questions?
No.
All in favor? It's carried unanimously. 8-11 grant application Experience Ontario 2026 program, Stewart Park, moved by Deputy Mayor.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I just opened up that report and obviously I missed it the number of times I read it. I'm ex officio to the Stewart Park Music Festival Board as emergency planning officer. And I've just read that it's not just for entertainment purposes, this grant, but for other additional operating costs. And because of that, I'm going to declare a conflict.
Yeah, no issue. All right, Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, as recommended by committee of the whole, be resolved, the council of the town of Perth authorize the director of community services to submit a grant application to the Experience Ontario 2026 program to an upset limit of $20,000 to assist in funding the Stewart Park Festival in 2026, as presented in report COW 15.11.
Any questions? Councillor McCray and then Councillor Waterfield.
Yeah, when is the deadline for this, Kathy?
Through the chair, the deadline is, I believe, December 18th.
Okay, and my other question is, because you've worked on these applications before, is this something that the Festival of Maples could apply for?
Through the chair, they could. I'm not too sure in terms of what the parameters would be in alignment with how they're set up as an organization. So we do it because it falls under the components of the Experience Ontario grant, but I'd have to look more into it.
I'm just bringing that up because this is their 50th year and they would like to enhance their programs that they're offering. So if there would be any way that, it's run under the Perth and District Chamber of Commerce. So you and I can talk about that later.
Sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Waterfield.
Chair, just a comment. I am a member of the Stewart Park Festival Organizing Committee, as many people know, and I consulted with the chair prior to the meeting, and I'm not in conflict in terms of voting on this motion. So I just wanted to state that publicly.
Thank you for that clarification. Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. My recollection is that the Stewart Park Festival used to apply for the Celebrate Ontario grant. This is something different? Is the amount that's being applied for approximately what they used to apply for from Celebrate Ontario?
Through the chair, they're also going to apply for the Celebrate Ontario grant as well. So this is what they received last year, the same amount. They were successful, but they've just notified me that they also want to apply for the Celebrate Ontario grant, which is great because they're very organized with their outreach for financial support. So
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, all of those in favor? So that's carried unanimously by those voting. 8.12 grant application Museums Assistance Program, Councillor McCray.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth authorize the Director of Community Services to submit a grant application to the Museums Assistance Program to an upset limit of $50,000 to assist in the project initiative titled strengthening collection management for the next 100 years, as presented in Report 2025, Committee of the Whole 15-12.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, your worship?
I read a report somewhere, it was talking that one of the museum's efforts ongoing is to retrieve articles that I guess they loaned to people or people borrowed or whatever. Is that part of this?
Through the chair, this grant application is more to look at our current collections, which is in the tens of thousands, and just helping us with our current staffing. They just don't have the capacity to help bring, get us to where we want with our collections management. So it's more of looking at our current collections and utilizing the digitization of it and enhancing its organization.
Thank you again.
Councillor Waterfield?
Through the chair, I just wanted to make a comment that I was absolutely thrilled to read this report, and I wholeheartedly support the application for this grant. At the museum, we just have such a wealth of documentation on the history of our town, and I really hope we get this grant because we really want to preserve it, digitize it, keep it up to date. It's a wealth of information there, and we have so much to be proud of as a town. Thank you.
Councillor McCray?
Just one closing remark, Chair, to Kathy McNally. Kathy, you are just a dynamite when it comes to applying for grants. Here we go. They're just lined up here, as you can see on our docket, on our agenda. And that's the kind of work this community needs to be doing. Every opportunity where there are grants available, to be on top of them and applying for them. And if anybody who's ever applied for these grants, there's a lot of work involved in putting one together and providing the support material, the budgetary information, and the documentation. So Kathy, great job.
Well stated.
Thank you. Through the chair, if I can just add, it's my staff who are the ones putting it together, and the team is great.
All right, so once again, all in favor? That's carried unanimously. Report 2025, under 8.13, bylaw number 5083-2, renewing the BIA Letter of Understanding, or LOU. And that's Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself as recommended by Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 5083-2, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a letter of understanding with the Downtown Heritage Perth Business Improvement Area as presented in Report COW 1513.
Questions, comments? Seeing none? Oh.
I know I'm talking a lot.
Got it through.
I know I'm talking a lot tonight, but here's just another example where our Director of Community Services has showed leadership, overseeing the BIA coordinator's operation with direction from the BIA via its strategic plan, and human resources supports will be provided to the BIA coordinator as well. And all communications regarding the BIA to the town will come through the BIA coordinator. And just having sat on the BIA for, it'll soon be 4 years, I have to say that I think this is a very positive strategic move. There was such challenges when business owners were asked to chair meeting, not just chair meetings, but be the manager, manage a staff person on almost on a full-time basis. It was very challenging. They're trying to run their businesses and they don't have the time to do the day-to-day supervision. So thank you again to our Director of Community Services for stepping up to the plate. And that's what that letter of understanding is all about.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Brown.
Thank you. I'll second what Councillor McCray has said. I can't wait till you apply your organizational capacity to the Anyway, I won't say that. As I recall, the Chamber of Commerce agreement, they are given certain amounts of money for completing 4 different events or whatever. Is the BIA agreement similar to that? I should remember, but I don't.
Through the chair, the letter of understanding has a commitment of in-kind or financial components that are given both by the town and the BIA. So as long as there is that financial commitment, as well as the letter of understanding updates just what the relationship for communication is like, then it's aligning with what we would be moving forward with.
Councillor McCray.
Through you, Chair, to our mayor, I sit on the Perth and District Chamber of Commerce, and we basically give them $10,000 through our community services grant. I'm not aware of any other monies we give them, except that, you know, we try, the town in every shape and form tries to work with our chamber.
Okay. Yes,
Can
I
you?
think it was just a comment.
Mhm.
As I recall, the agreement with the Chamber of Commerce was such as I've outlined. I believe the amount was $10,000 and it was for doing 4 different events, and they would be given the money once they completed those events. I don't believe there's anything else that has been given to the Chamber of Commerce. Am I right?
Through the chair, you are correct. It's the $10,000 that we give. I think when it first started with the community grants, it was the 4 events that they would host, because that's when the chamber went off from doing the tourism initiatives. So it was more pertaining to the Festival of the Maples and some business components. So I think that's a historic reference. But now what they do when they submit their application every year, they outline to us what their goals will be. And then they have a report due at the end of each year to outline how they accomplish those goals using our funding that we provide.
So it's changed somewhat.
Okay.
That's great. No,
Deputy Mayor.
Kathy, this might not be the part of this discussion, but is there any talk of expanding the footprint of the BIA? Or is there any, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just wonder, is it moving out Wilson Street at all, or is there an opportunity to do that, or?
Through the chair, not to my knowledge at this point.
If I could add to that, it's not an easy process. A certain percentage, I think it's 60% or whatever of the businesses that are involved in the proposal have to vote in favor of the proposal. So it's not like a decision that we would make until the end of the process.
That's right.
Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? That's carried unanimously. And finally, 8.14, the 2026 interim tax levy bylaw, Councillor Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. Moved by myself, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 52XX, being a bylaw to provide for interim tax levies on all rateable properties in the Town of Perth for 2026, as presented in Report 2025 Cow-15.14.
Any questions or comments? Councillor McCray?
No, I don't have
Okay,
any.
I just thought I'd ask.
Now you're being funny. No, you got a great sense of humor.
Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. So that brings us to 9, CAO and Director departmental updates. Once again, we've all read these reports. Unless anyone has a specific question for a specific director, I'm just going to ask for the, do I even need a motion? I don't even need a motion. So let's just questions. Councillor Waterfield.
Through the chair to our CAO, I was reading your report that you wrote something to the effect that there are 2 parties interested in industrial parkland. So I just wanted to clarify, is it 2 parties interested in the same piece of property, or is it 2 parties interested in 2 pieces of property? And also, do you have any sense of what kind of employment that could offer if in fact that was successful?
Through the chair, 2 parties interested in 2 large collections of parcels. I sent council an email probably while you're on your way here this evening about the one which is confidential yet. But both would bring employment and significant investment to the area. So
That's really good to hear. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for any of the directors and their reports? All right, I can move forward. I'm not aware of any new business. Our next meeting is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026 at 5:30 with Mayor Brown as chair. Do we have any questions from the media?
Olivia Barrett, Metroland, no questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do not have any closed session tonight, so therefore 13 and 14 are redundant. Could I ask for a motion to adjourn? Councillor Smith.
Moved by myself that the committee of the whole meeting held on December 2nd, 2025, adjourn at 6:18 PM.
All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you.